Now, most people start a nonprofit because they care. But once they get started, they realize caring alone won't grow their organization. I've started a nonprofit from scratch and have since advised dozens more to launch and grow. And I've spent years studying what separates nonprofit founders who build real impact from those who burn out and close their organization's doors. So today I'm going to walk you through the 5 skills that modern nonprofit founders actually need to succeed based on current research, sector trends, and what I'm personally seeing working right now. And by the end of this video, you'll know with clarity what you need to do to start building these critical skills, even if you don't feel ready. Now, when I first started my nonprofit years ago, I thought if people just saw how passionate I was, then the support would come in really fast. But I was wrong. I quickly learned that the real work was about convincing people to trust me, raising money for things donors don't like to fund, like systems and staff and infrastructure, and hearing no over and over again while still showing up every day with confidence. But since then, I've advised nonprofit founders across the United States, and I've noticed a pattern. The nonprofit founders who succeed today aren't just passionate. They are problem-solving entrepreneurs. When you look at the research on effective founders from 80,000 Hours and Stanford Social Innovation Review and the Bridgespan Group and others, clear patterns emerge in the skills and traits showing up in the nonprofit founders who launch and grow and make a huge impact. And there's one trait on this list that almost nobody expects because it's not what people commonly associate with nonprofits, and I'll explain what that one is at the end. Here's what consistently shows up. Now, the strongest nonprofit founders have a leader's vision, which means they can clearly answer 3 questions. Who is this organization for? What exact problem are we solving? And why this approach? One of the most common problems I see in new organizations is this lack of clarity about their mission. Founders often try to have too broad or general a scope, doing everything under the sun. Or they use language that doesn't make what the organization actually does clear at all. People should be able to understand your nonprofit's vision in like 5 or 10 seconds or less. This isn't easy to do, I know, but it has a huge impact on a nonprofit founder's ability to raise money. Research from the Stanford Social Innovation Review shared how grant makers and other donors are significantly more likely to support organizations with clearly articulated problems and solutions, not just inspiring or compelling stories. A crystal clear vision that you can articulate is critical because it gets your funding flywheel spinning. Clarity builds trust. Trust unlocks funding, funding fuels impact, then impact builds more clarity and trust, unlocking even more funding, and so on. So try writing a 1-sentence problem statement explaining the problem you're solving and why it matters, and testing it out on someone else. If they still don't understand the vision, it's not ready. Now, according to 80,000 Hours' analysis of successful founders, domain familiarity or subject matter expertise dramatically increases the odds of building effective, high-impact organizations in social change fields. So as a founder, you should know the issue that you're trying to tackle inside and out. You should have a deep understanding of not just how the issue affects the day-to-day lives of those you serve, but also the different players in the ecosystem connect to that issue and the root causes of those issues on a systemic level. Not just that, founders who've spent time inside the problem outperform those who haven't. Founders who spend time with the communities they want to serve, whether it's people experiencing homelessness, single mothers, youth, or others, get to know their challenges day to day and what solutions would have an outsized impact on those challenges. And this is important because credibility isn't just something you claim to have, it's earned. That credibility is going to help you both create programs that really make an impact and get the funding needed to grow those programs. Funders increasingly prioritize lived experience, practitioner insights, and deep contextual understanding. So if you don't have direct experience yet, you can get started by scheduling listening conversations with people already doing similar work, not trying to pitch anything, just to listen and learn. But here's the twist. Even if your vision is crystal clear and you've got great expertise, you can still struggle to raise money because funders aren't just funding clarity and knowledge, they're funding fit. And that's exactly what skill number 3 is about. This is the skill many nonprofit founders struggle with because they assume fundraising is about charisma or selling your cause when it's actually about something else: strategic positioning. Now, we talked about vision earlier. Vision answers what you're doing, but strategic positioning answers why a specific funder should invest in your cause instead of dozens of other organizations working on related issues. Funders are constantly making comparative decisions about where to invest. Even when they deeply care about an issue, they still have to decide which organizations feel most ready to execute and which ones fit their priorities, their constraints, and their reporting requirements. So, strong positioning helps funders answer those questions quickly by signaling where you fit in the broader landscape of organizations working on the same issue, what role you uniquely play, whether your organization is an innovative pilot of a new approach, a backbone organization coordinating other organizations, an organization providing direct services, or one focusing on systems level changes, and also why funding your organization now unlocks leverage or momentum. When founders understand this, fundraising shifts from selling your cause to alignment. You're no longer asking everyone for money. You're talking to the right funders in the right language about the right role that your unique organization plays. So here's what you need to do first. Map out your funding landscape. Research and list out the organizations that are working on similar issues in your service area, the different roles they play, and then where your nonprofit fits in all of that. If you can clearly explain your position relative to others, funders are going to be way more likely to say yes. And right after the sponsor break, I'm going to tell you the most overlooked factor that determines whether people actually respond to your emails or calls as a new nonprofit founder. Once you've done the work, once funders and donors want to support you, you also need an easy, professional way to actually collect and manage your donations. So it's the perfect moment to thank today's sponsor, Click and Pledge. Click and Pledge's fundraising platform makes it easy for nonprofits of all sizes to grow and scale. You'll get professional grade tools for super affordable startup level costs from day one. They've got customizable donation forms that you can plug right into your website, and that creates the foundation for your messaging and your online fundraising strategy. But Click and Pledge also has a number of other tools included in their affordable flat monthly costs that you can use as your nonprofit grows, like their Swiper One tool that lets you collect donations at in-person events, feeding them directly into your platform to avoid data entry later. They've got their peer-to-peer fundraising features, video fundraising with embedded donation links right in the videos, text-to-give tools, donor stewardship and management tools to help keep your relationships strong, Salesforce and other integrations, all included with no contracts or surprise add-on fees. Now, unlike some platforms that increase your fees as you grow, Click and Pledge pricing stays the same whether you have 10 donors or 10,000 donors. So use the QR code and link in the description below to check out Click and Pledge. You can book a demo, talk to their team, and get your first $25 monthly fee waived. Now, let's talk about something that rarely shows up in nonprofit job descriptions, but quietly determines who succeeds, and that is social capital. Contrary to popular belief, social capital isn't about being popular. It's not about having a huge LinkedIn following. It's about the trust and the relationships and the goodwill that you've built with people in your community before you need anything from them. In nonprofits, social capital shows up everywhere you look. It determines who returns your calls, who opens doors to partnerships, who advocates for your organization when you're not in the room, and yes, who is willing to fund you and collaborate with you or take a risk alongside you. But it goes far beyond fundraising. Founders and organizations with strong social capital also design better programs because they're trusted by the people they serve. They get more visibility because others naturally share and vouch for their work. They solve problems faster because they can mobilize help and feedback and resources more quickly. And they adapt to crises better because they're not operating alone. This is why new nonprofits that try to build the plane while flying it often struggle. They're asking for trust before they've had time to earn it. But I know that social capital can seem like kind of a vague concept. So how do you actually build it as a founder? The answer is mostly by investing in building and maintaining relationships as early in your process as you can with community members and partners and peers and supporters, even when there's no immediate payoff. That investment is going to compound. You can start intentionally building social capital in small, practical ways. And here are just a few ideas on how to do that. Show up consistently to one community space or event related to your issue. Maybe it's a meeting, a special event or gathering or volunteer effort. Participate with no agenda other than listening. Offer value to others before asking for anything. Make an introduction, share a resource you found, or amplify someone else's work publicly. You can ask for advice or insight, not funding. Invite someone to share their perspective on the problem you're working on without pitching your organization. If people can trust you as a founder, they eventually trust your organization, and that trust becomes the most powerful and overlooked asset that a nonprofit founder can have. And now we're at the skill a lot of people don't automatically associate with nonprofits, but it's the trait that decides whether you survive the first hard year as a nonprofit founder. This last trait is the one that quietly determines whether everything else you've built can actually hold up. Because once you have a vision, once you've positioned your mission, once you've started building trust and relationships, the environment is still going to change on you. Funding is going to shift. Demand increases faster than capacity. You might have staff burnout. Technology could evolve. What worked last year stops working this year. And the founders who succeed today are the ones who can adapt creatively. That means being willing to test new approaches, learn quickly, and adjust. According to Salesforce's 2025 Nonprofit Trends report, nearly half of nonprofits are experiencing increased demand for services, while only a third have had their capacity increase to match it. Under that kind of pressure, organizations are being forced to rethink how they deliver programs, raise money, and operate. In fact, according to that same report, 85% of nonprofits reported changing their fundraising strategies in the past year to try to adapt. Organizations are also exploring new technologies, with over half of nonprofits now actively using or piloting AI for everything from program design to reporting their impact, and that's up 12% from the year before. That's entrepreneurial adaptation. And the mistake that kills new nonprofits founders here is kind of subtle. It looks responsible, but it actually kind of traps you. The founders that I see struggling most are often the ones who feel that they have to get it right the first time. They lock themselves into a single model or program or funding approach. On the other hand, the founders who last think like entrepreneurs. They treat their nonprofit like a living system by experimenting in small or low-risk ways to figure out what works, learning from data and feedback, and then evolving their methods without straying from their ultimate purpose. So here's how to build up this trait. Do one thing this week that feels slightly uncomfortable, but has no lasting downside if it doesn't work. For example, you might share an idea publicly, ask a question that you're not confident about, try a different framing of your mission than you normally use. Your goal here is to get yourself comfortable with risk in small ways. For successful founders, failure is just feedback. It's data. It's not the end of the world. And at the end of the day, adaptability isn't fearlessness. It's knowing that you can recover. So here's the truth. Starting a nonprofit isn't easy, but it is learnable. If you can build clarity and confidence and relationships and adaptability, you can build impact. And if you want help with that, be sure to opt into my free weekly newsletter because I send out tips and resources and funding opportunities for nonprofit leaders every single week. The link to join that is below this video, and you can also find more resources on my website, changemakercafe.com. Next week, I'm going to dive deeper into how to get your organization ready to fundraise. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. I'm Amber Melanie Smith. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.